Hello, I was born as Corinthia Williams, and I wanted to write a book about my life because I believe some things people would not believe that I experienced, seen, or went through, and other things you can't believe. Some were good, but a lot was things kids shouldn't have even experienced. But instead of writing a book, I wanted to talk about it also, to express emotions that you really probably can't put in a book, to get feedback. And also because God placed a lot of people in my life that I don't know where these people are now, and I would love to let them know the impact they had on me. So, what I decided to do is with my YouTube channel, tell you and take you on the journey of my life. Now, some exact dates I cannot remember. I'm not gonna lie. So a lot of them are estimates, but as long as the story makes sense, that's all that matters. And you're also gonna see how things change in life. Also, you're gonna see how kids, you may don't think, but they remember a lot of things that happened to them in their childhood. So it's very, very, very important that kids experience good childhoods, because you as an adult go on living and you might think, oh, my child don't know about that, but you will be surprised the small, minute things that kids pick up on. So, like I was saying, I'm start by telling you the name I was born with. My mother is Gladys. I'll decide if I want to give her a last name because her last name different. But she was in the army, and I don't know how it was back then, but she had me when she was in the army. I was born in Oklahoma, Fort Sill, Army's Renal Hospital. I was born in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, in Army's Renal Hospital, and my aunt came to pick me up to bring me back to my mother's resident, where she originally from, Miami, Florida. Now, when people hear Miami, they think of yachts, South Beach, sunshine. But I grew up on the other side of the expressway, and over there you have, what we call in Miami, Liberty City. Liberty City is an urban area. It's mainly black. Things are changing now, and you might find a lot of Cuban Americans and stuff like that. But it was mainly black. Now, I was born in 83. So I grew up in the 80s, early 90s. And, things were different. We stayed in the projects. In this project, I can't remember the name of them, but I'm going to insert pictures so you can get an idea of them. Right across the street from these projects was a park. I don't remember the name of the park back then, but it was a park. And on the park, they used to have like dance contests and stuff like that. It was always something that happened on the park on the weekend. But see, now keep in mind, back then, you know, people in your neighborhood or community, they were able to chastise you when you did something wrong or you didn't. Things different now. But also, the neighborhood was bad, but my age group didn't experience the bad things. Like if something bad, you heard about it, but we never experienced. We walked around during the day. We didn't get shot. There wasn't, little normal fights that little kids might have, but you didn't have gang violence, because whenever that was taking place, we was in our home. The kids would sleep there. But in the projects, the unit we had in the projects, it was an upstairs, downstairs unit. And my childhood, my real fun memories start like probably around 1989. And at that time, we were moving out of the projects because, my grandfather had died. He died in 84. And I was little, so I don't even remember him. But my grandmother, she at this time was old, and a lot of shit that was going on in her household with her older kids, she had had enough of, and she decided that she was going to go to, a senior citizen retirement community. And by the unit being in her name, that means that if she's not there no more, everybody else in there had to leave. So, and let me backtrack. I'm going to be kind of all over the place, but I have to do it this way so you can understand. Like I said, my mom was in the army. I had an Uncle Angelo, Uncle Mario, Uncle Reggie, an Auntie Suzette, and an Auntie Sandra. So all together, my grandma had 6 kids. My mom had 5 siblings. At this time that I'm talking about, 89, all of my grandmother kids were on crack cocaine, except 2, my Uncle Mario and my Uncle Angelo. Those 2 were in the army, and they were away, they were away out on duty. So they'll come and visit every now and then, but they didn't stay with us. And by this time, my mom was out of the army. And when she got out and got back settled, in the neighborhood, she got on drugs. But the thing about my mom that fascinates me is that she was a functioning addict. Like, if you didn't know her personally, she didn't tell you, you would have no idea that she smoked crack. She didn't walk around dirty, hair standing on top of her head, feet dirty, looking raggedy. She did none of that. And in fact, she was a very involved mother. She always played educational games with me. And she used to also always make sure I was comfortable, busy doing something. But as I think back, she probably did that too, to make sure that I was in a comfortable space. So when she wanted to go upstairs and smoke, she could be okay. But aside from that, my mom was a very involved mother. And now looking back, she didn't do it in front of me at this time. But as with any hardcore drug, you will see the more you get into it, certain things you're not able to hide. So as I said, my grandma was moving out, but she had moved out by now. She'll come back and visit, to let them know, look, y'all better find somewhere to go because you only got such more weeks or months to be here. And so this particular day, I remember my grandma coming, and she was getting ready to leave, but I wanted to go with her. So she told me that I could spend the night with her. And I was so excited. And so she went upstairs to my mom's room, to get me my things. Because my mom was doing something in the kitchen. And my auntie Sandra happened to be in the house. And my grandma left her purse on the table. And I remember my auntie Sandra going into the purse, getting some money out, and going in the kitchen to my mom. My mom never came out the kitchen or nothing. So, because I'm sitting on the couch, I seen that. So my grandma came back down, and it was time for me to leave because I was spending the night with her. Me and my grandma loved wrestling. So this, I knew, okay, tomorrow morning we're going to watch wrestling. It had to be like on the weekend or something. I remember when wrestling used to come on back then. But my favorite wrestler, I had 3. I had Hulk Hogan was one. I think it was the Honky Tonk Man or something like that. He had this girl that wore this like 1950s skirt or whatever, and he had like this guitar. And my favorite of all, Ric Flair. And so me and my grandma was leaving out because we had already set in my mind we gonna watch wrestling, and we gonna have fun. Now my grandma was 5 feet, stern woman, but will give you the shirt off her back, will give you the food out of her refrigerator and tell you, take this, go make a meal with it. And every Friday, she'll take 2 shots of what she called naughty head, but it was really E&J gin. I don't know what was the purpose of that, but these are things I remember about my grandma. So we left, and back then, you know, if you wasn't driving, you could get it in Liberty City, Miami, Florida. You can get around by taxi, bus, or what they had was jitneys. Now, jitneys usually was driven by, Haitians, and they would drive you to the bus. If the bus passed and left, the jitney would be coming right behind, and they'd take you to the same routes the bus would. So we got on that, and the man told my grandma, "You can find your seat first, and then come back and bring the money up to get in." And I remember seeing my grandma fumbling. She had enough to pay our fare, so she paid it. And when she came back, I noticed she was fumbling through her purse. And she said to me, she said, "Corinthia, did somebody go in my purse?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Who?" I said, "Auntie Sandra went in there. She got some money out, and then she went in the kitchen." And she said, "Now, I don't believe this shit." And I still remember that. Something that small and minute, I remember. And keep in mind, my Auntie Sandra was on drugs then. So she just couldn't believe. She could believe it. She knew it. She believed it. But she couldn't believe it was that fast that they did it. So that's one memory I remember. Another memory, and I must warn you, this will be a trigger warning to anyone who ever been sexually abused or experienced any kind of, sexual abuse in their life. I never forget, and this was right before we moved to. It was my auntie Suzette and Auntie Sandra wasn't home. It was just me and my mom. We was on the couch watching TV. And so my Auntie Sandra and Auntie Suzette came in with two men. I guess one was her boyfriend and another one was my other auntie boyfriend. And my Auntie Sandra told my mom, "Hey, Gladys, come upstairs." And my mom did. But one of the guys laid on the other end of the couch. That same couch I was laying on. And a few minutes went by, and now that I look back, they probably was upstairs smoking or whatever. But he all of a sudden laid his head right by my legs. And I remember him moving his hand, and then I remember having on a nightgown with no shorts on it, just regular panties. And let me just say this. A responsible mother would never have let someone lay on the couch with their child. But you gotta keep in mind they were on drugs. And the way my mom described it to me, her state, when you on that drug, you don't give a damn about that, nothing but your next high. So, like I said, he laid his head by my legs, and he put his hand under my gown and rubbed my vagina. He didn't penetrate or nothing like that. but he rubbed it, and I kicked him. I didn't yell or nothing, but I kicked him because I knew that was wrong. My mom always had stressed to me, nobody should touch you under there. So I knew it was wrong, and I kicked him. And he just moved, went back, and laid to the other side of the couch. And I remember my Uncle Reggie coming in the door, like, I'll say like 20 minutes later. And Uncle Reggie was a real laid back dude. He rarely said anything to me. And he came back, he was like, "What the fuck you doing on the couch with my niece? He did something to you, Nisha?" Because my nickname was Nisha. I said, "No, no." But I have never seen him that excited. He barely said anything to me, so to see him this excited was scaring me. I said, "No, no." And he told the man, "Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out." And do you know, as loud as my Uncle Reggie was, as irate as he was, no adult came downstairs. My Uncle Reggie went upstairs. I don't know whether he went to tell my mom about herself for allowing that or what. And I tell you no lie, as God is my witness, until this day, I have never seen my Uncle Reggie again. Now, they say, and when I say they, I'm talking about my auntie and my mom, they say Uncle Reggie moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and he's now living a different life, and he's now a transsexual. I don't know how true that is, you know, so I'm just letting you know, but I never seen him out after that. And I say all that to tell you so you could get a feeling of just how untouched, how you could be living in the same house with someone and not even know, know them. So we eventually moved out of the projects, but we didn't move far. Like, we moved farther down the street, and we moved in with some guy my mom knew. It was me, my mom, and my auntie Suzette. And we moved in with this guy named Ben. Ben later became the father of my brother. But it was a strange dynamic because Ben had a 1 bedroom duplex, and I'm gonna insert pictures, like I said, to show you the area so you get a feel of the place. And he slept in his room with his door closed. Me and my mom slept on one couch, and my auntie Suzette slept on the other couch. Uh, you know, throughout this, my auntie Suzette mom has always had this connection and been close. My auntie Sandra, who is now no longer with us, she died of a drug overdose. They didn't really they loved her. She came around, they smoked, got high together, but she wasn't no one that they would really stay around too long. Cause from what I remembered about her, she has like some very nasty ways, and they were more laid back. And she was more vicious with her tactics. Like, oh, if you met this guy, okay, when he go to sleep, go and hold his wallet and steal from him. They didn't do that, They more like, okay, they would be more like, okay, yeah, we'll get high with him, but we ain't finna steal from him. But she would steal from her, and that created more danger than them smoking. So it was like I said, it was me, my auntie Suzette, and my mom who stayed with Ben. And I'm gonna insert the picture to show you like how it looked. This is not exactly how it looked back then. Things changed over the years. But this school that's right across the street is the school I started going to. Back then it was called Florida Heights Elementary School. Now it's called Brownsville Culinary School. So I could walk right across the street. Now I'm gonna insert the pictures of the duplexes. They were colorful, and I'm not sure. I think back then it was called Rainbow City because how colorful the places were. But this how they look now. They just plain gray. But it was a lot of them. I could tell over the years they must have got rid of some. But okay, in this neighborhood, it was a lot of fascinating characters. But I'm going to name some of the characters I remember. One of the characters I remember was this guy who we call a preacher man. He lived right across from us. And see, the way the duplexes look now, they didn't even look like that. They didn't even face all that direction back then. Well, I could say they were. There was a bunch of roads. Like they knocked down a lot of them because that went way back. But right across from us was this guy named Preacher Man. And Preacher Man, I guess he was a deacon or somebody, probably of a small church. But every Friday afternoon, he will hook this microphone up to this loudspeaker. And he would let the kids of the neighborhood sing church songs while he beat a drum. And I distinctly remember him because his mouth, when he smiled, it reminded me of a stick of butter with orange specks in them because his teeth was so yellow, but they had like this orange stuff in between them. But he was a very nice guy. Now, next door to him moved in this guy named Cedric. My auntie Suzette started dating Cedric. Cedric and Preacher Man would get in fights. Not physical fights, but arguments all the time. Because Cedric liked to drink. And he would have his brothers come over and they would have like little barbecues and stuff. And Preacher Man just thought they was too loud and inappropriate for the neighborhood. Also in the neighborhood was this cripple guy named Rick. And Rick, he could get around but not that good. He'll have to like drag himself or whatever. He barely came out the house. But like people in the neighborhood, the older ladies, like my auntie age and my mama age, will go and, either cook or clean the house for him and he would pay them or whatever. He cussed a lot, but he had a granddaughter who stayed with her mom in this complex also. And her name was Dominique. Me and Dominique became best friends. Very good friends. And I wish I could remember her last name to find her. But Dominique mom and dad, they used to get in fights a lot. And I even remember one time Dominique father tried to burn the duplex down. Well, I ain't gonna say try. He set it on fire. He was something else. I really would like to know how they turned out. And I'm naming these people because I want to give you a sense of how, when I tell you hood, this is the hood. But people are people, everybody have feelings. And just because people grow up in the hood don't mean they not good people, I'm just giving you an idea of some of the characters. We also had a guy in this neighborhood called Pops, and Pops had like the candy store. He would sell candy and stuff, and the kids would go there and buy it. And also, like on the weekends, he would run a shot house. If you don't know what a shot house is, a shot house is where adults can go buy shots of liquor, and they'll probably sit in the yard and stuff, and talk and drink the liquor. But he also ran a shot house. That was Pops. I also made a friend with this girl named Kawana. Kawana was a real sweet girl. And I still remember her face as a child. She used to wear these too long pigtails all the time. And she had a mom. Oh my goodness. You know what? I didn't want to say her real name because of what I was going to say about her mom. But, okay. I'm sorry, Kawana. If you listening, her mom was a heavy set lady, but she was mean. She always cussed at Kawana and made Kawana like do every little thing. And when you pass by her mom, she had like this funk smell. Like she didn't bathe that well. Oh my, and see Kawana back then, the Nintendos had just came out. And that was the thing in the duck game when the ducks flying and you shooting the ducks across the screen. That was the it. And Kawana had that game, and Kawana would invite me over to play. Instead of me and Kawana taking turns, her mama would bogart the game. And I know you might saying, really, really, Karita, really, you putting this in there? Yes, I am, because I'm telling you, some kids remember everything. So that was Kawana. Now, that's all the people, interesting people, the neighborhood I'm gonna tell you about. I'm gonna go back here and now to refer to the neighborhood. In this now, about around this time, things were changing for me in my household. My mom wasn't as put together as she was before. And what I mean by that, like with the old, where we would stand in the projects, she would go upstairs and smoke, whatever. But now, like, she would literally just smoke in the dining room of the duplex. And it wasn't that big because it was a one bedroom, so you got a little space for the dining room, and right there is the two couches. And she would just get high there. Now, if Ben wasn't home, she would go in the room, her and my aunt. But at this point, she just started smoking right there. And I think she probably didn't realize that I was taking all this in. And this is why you be careful what you do in front of kids. But I was taking all this in and I seen this. And I remember it. So I remember, and she also started at this time, like she would leave the house. And my mom always used to tell me, "Mama, be right back, baby. Love you," and give me a kiss. Corinthia, Mama, be right back. Or Nisha, because my nickname Nisha. Nisha, Mama, be right back, baby. But she started just leaving sometimes. And my auntie Suzette to be there to watch me. So me and Auntie Suzette got even more closer. Oh, and a side note too, my Auntie Suzette, her kids was taken away from her by now. And her oldest son, Jamie, I believe he went to stay with his godparents. And he used to go to the Brownsville Middle School right down the street from the projects. Jamie was my favorite cousin because I was so fascinated with him. He was in the band. And if you from Liberty City, you know the high school bands, we love them. Miami Jackson Senior High School at Miami Northwestern. But see, even back then, even Brownsville band was good. And I was fascinated with his uniform. He was my favorite cousin. He's still living. But I want to throw that in case you all want to know if Auntie Suzette had kids, whatever. And I'm going to refer back to that to tell you about her situation. But now me and Auntie Suzette was getting closer because my mom was leaving now, the house and stuff. She'll come back. She didn't stay overnight or nothing, but now she'll just pop, leave. And I wasn't used to that because, my mom always took me everywhere with her. She always kept me under her. So that was new to me. And I remember one night, man, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they hit a lick, if my auntie Suzette hit a lick or something, but they had some money. And boy, I tell you, that dining room, them lighters was flickering like it was a lightning show going out on. They was getting high, you know. But I guess they decided, okay, that's enough. We straight. Because my mama had to get up the next morning. Down the street from the duplexes was this building, and it's still there. It's called the Joseph Cater Center. And at the Joseph Cater Center, you go to pick up your food stamps. Now back then, EBT stamps, they came in a book, and you tear the the papers out the book. That was the money. I'm gonna insert a picture of how food stamps look back then. And you had to go to the building, Joseph Cater building, the Joseph Cater Center. Sorry, y'all. To get the food stamps, and you also will get a box of government food. Now you might be saying, "What the hell is government food?" I'm gonna tell you what was in this box. You had powdered milk, Kellogg's Corn Flakes, no sugar. You had dry beans. You had a can of canned pork with a pig on it. I'm gonna insert, if I can, some pictures to show you. You also had this block of cheese, this thick rectangular square block of cheese that came in this brown box, and you had to slice it. Now, I know you may be thinking, damn, that's a poor man's meal. But when you fry that canned pork up with onions and put that on some white rice, it was the bomb. Now, I ain't lying to you. And also, that cheese, put that on some bread, toast that. That was the best cheese toast you had. Because it was rich. I don't know what the hell they put in it.